that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo.
And Gavin.
What is Gucci Shoes?
And today we're here to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen episode 12. And I was also just informed that this is the last episode before they are taking a short break, which I'm very upset about, but it happens. Actually, you know, there is so much anime that's coming out January onward. That is like it's just insane.
Yeah, I'm not even upset that it's taking a break because it's like, oh, we're not gonna get to watch it. I'm like, now that's another thing.
I know it's like too much, right? No, but they're gonna come back from what I've heard in January. I don't know a specific date, but anyway, here we are talking about episode 12, and wow, this one, my personal opinion, was a straight banger. 24 minutes through the entire time. Really crazy stuff happens within it. It's really a lot of talking about the specific abilities and intricacies of how those abilities mesh with each other. Now there are some pretty deep moments that happen, i.e. Itadori with his one speech, which we'll get to, or line rather, and we get a lot of really sad moments, or one really big sad moment just on top of, the last episode where Junpei's mother unfortunately was killed. This show just does not pull punches, man, and I have to say I kind of love it, and like, trying not to sound sadistic when I say that, but it's like, I do love that there are consequences to every action that is taken in this show. And that you were saying it before we went live earlier today when we watched the episode, that it's like Itadori, we know is probably fine in terms of his life, right? Because he's the protagonist, etc. But everyone around him, it's fair game, man. Like there could be anyone that could just bite it at any particular moment. And, you think some characters might be a little more susceptible than others, fair enough. Some characters might need to stay for later purposes, but it's really fair game out there. Like we don't know who's biting the dust when. So Junpei, unfortunately, in this episode is no exception. So right in the beginning, we started off and Kento's like, don't go in there, bro. I'm telling you. Leaves up his goon to clean up the people, which we were laughing because we were like, this guy, who the hell is this guy? And then we're like, yeah, all the Jujutsu sorcerers are actually crazy. So he's like, yeah, I got it. Does his thing. And, of course, Itadori cannot accept that, and all hell breaks loose. But there's a lot that happens before Junpei's unfortunate death. And I don't know if any of you guys had any thoughts on that. We get into his ability, which was really forced and really quick that he picked up that ability, the jellyfish. And we really just get to see that Junpei was nothing more than a pawn to be used, because there's no way if that guy seriously wanted him to fight Itadori that he would just give him 24 hours, 48 hours to master an ability of something that he just learned exists in this world and expect him to fare at all against him. He just used that kid's emotions against him and steered him in a direction that he wanted him to go. Very unfortunate, but it happens. This is a dark world that we live in this story. But yeah, again, I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on the actual fight that ensued and some of the talks that they had, because we had some moments that hit really hard. And curious to hear your guys' thoughts, if any of you have any.
First off, I just want to say I totally predicted this exact thing was going to happen.
You did.
Last
you were spot
discussion,
on.
Which I'm very happy about, because I love that this, I love that this story is taking this route. I love that it does really feel like there's consequences for characters in the world. And again, like you were saying, while maybe they're not all specifically aimed at Itadori, even indirectly through people he likes or people he befriends or people he, that are his comrades, etc. It feels like there's real weight to this, and it feels like, again, this central idea of Itadori's of I am the shonen protagonist. I'm going to dissuade you from your way of thinking and beat you with my talk no jutsu and maybe an ass whooping is going to get challenged, right? Because that belief sort of is very adjacent to this idea of well, if somebody's in danger, I'm going to save them and I can save everybody. But it's this just doesn't work in this world. You know what I mean? There are, to mirror Tower of God, weirdly, it's you're not going to be able to save everybody. There are circumstances and situations where people people who don't deserve it are going to die. And for really no reason other than this world is unfair and unjust. And so I like that that gets hammered home with the whole Junpei thing. Mahito is just just a nasty.
Yeah,
like,
he is.
That guy is the definition of a curse. He's just like this embodiment of like evil and vile and negative cursed energy. But yeah, so in the fight's interesting because once after Junpei gets spirited or transfigured, whatever you want to call it, we essentially, Mahito's kind of going back and forth in his head a little bit about fighting. He's like, oh, this is Sukuna's vessel. This is the guy we're after. He's like, all right, so basically my goal here is to just get him into a state where he makes the pact with Sukuna to switch over, and then we'll try and coerce Sukuna to our side of thinking. So he's like, okay, maybe I can like go down in the the gymnasium and transform all the students one by one to sort of like get Itadori really riled up. And it immediately, at least I thought, I'm like, okay, so this is kind of going to be like we're running against the clock here. Because Itadori's not... Because, like, the way that Kento talks about Mahito from the last episode, I was under the impression that, like, Itadori was not even in the same wheelhouse when it came to, like, in terms of power and power scaling compared to Mahito. But it's, like, kind of not true. Because he does, hold his own in a,
Sure, yeah.
It's not a one-sided fight on anybody's side. You know what I mean? Like, for as much as Mahito can give Itadori does seem to be able to like, do a little bit of back and forth with him, and maybe that's mostly because he's a 5-star decathlon athlete and can just do things that insane. Like no person, sorcerer or not, shouldn't be able to do. But it was pretty cool. It was cool to see Mahito expand his abilities a little bit more because you see him do the thing with the wings when he's like, he's ducking and dodging Itadori's attacks.
Yeah.
Then he has that like, stretchy like arm thing that he does where he's like starts transforming his arm into a bunch of different weapons and stuff. I don't know. And the fight was, again, it was cool because while I wasn't really concerned for Itadori's safety specifically the whole time, I was curious of like, all right, I wonder how long this fight's going to drag on, because I wonder how many more people or things are going to get pulled into this and like killed off, hurt, what have you, as a consequence of this fight. Because again, at least for me, and especially one of my favorite scenes was the scene where he asked Sukuna for help. Yeah, Sukuna's like, that dude, why would I help you? I don't even like you. And they both just start fucking like, taking digs at him.
That was so cruel.
And they're both laughing at him, where it's like this, like, it is every fight again that Itadori gets into, physicality and power scaling aside, there's a level of his sanity that goes into this fight too, and is getting chipped away at subsequently every time he faces a cursed spirit that's willing, let's just say, to go to these routes or do these things or even say these things that like normal people even that he'd be fighting wouldn't do or say. Sure. So it was just so cool to like see that get like, poke the bear a little bit in that sense. And I was wondering, like, while watching it, like, okay, how far is this going to go? Like, is he really going to get on rock? Because that scene that he has right after Mahito's like taunting him after Junpei dies, when he has that like shot where he looks up and he's like, I'm going to kill you. It's like, I was like, ooh, did he just like, did he snap? Is he really like, so it was cool.
Yeah. Gavin, do you have any thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, no, what I thought it was really cool with, obviously we know Mahito, he's able to manipulate people's souls, and that's like, that's the basis of everything that he can do. And it's actually awesome thinking back to when Itadori was first, when he first consumed Sukuna's finger, and that whole inner like trivial went on, and then he wound up overcoming Sukuna. And now you find out it's almost like his soul. He's able to separate the differences, and he has awareness and control on his soul, and is able to overpower Sukuna's soul on top of that. But what's awesome is we look at it through Mahito's standpoint, and it seems like since he was existed from a being, he's been able to have that ability to have full control over his soul and other people's souls. And it's crazy when you think about Itadori. Before he consumed the finger, he was a normal kid. Obviously he's an Olympic athlete, who barring that. But just as a person, for him to have that much control over his own identity and soul and have that like self-realization and reflection is pretty awesome, because if he didn't have it at that moment of his life, that is the only thing barring Sukuna from taking over his body in the first place. So it's like right out the bat, he was able to have that self-awareness that is what literally is continuing, like it's continuing his life as we know now. And I thought that like interpretation of it and like explanation on why Itadori is in the place that he's at with Sukuna comparatively through another antagonist who has a similar ability, or at least knowledge on what's going on with souls and people, even though it's diluted and whatever. But it's just cool. I like that parallel that they're drawing, and I thought it just like coincides with the show very well, especially when you're dealing with cursed spirits and like different ideas that it can manifest into. And I think it's really creative, and I haven't seen much of it in other shows that I've watched. Like, you hear souls, and your soul is this and soul is that, but like now we're actually seeing it in a way where it could be like physically manipulated in a way that changes your actual appearance. And, you know, we haven't really seen emotionally yet that we know of. But no, I just think it's really cool how in that fighting scene and just in this one episode, we got like that whole info bomb, and it kind of just makes the world, even though it's fictional, it makes sense, and like it's understandable from our point of view. And I like when they're able to do that and incorporate like such strange and abstract ideas in a show in a way that is followable. So I give you full props.
So I wanted to talk about two parts in particular, and they kind of are backtracking a little bit, obviously, because, you know, majority of this episode was the fight. But two scenes that really stuck with me personally was when Junpei breaks down in tears. When he's fighting Itadori, and Itadori, they launch back into the window where the stairs are, and Junpei breaks down, and Itadori says something along the lines of like something about your heart, and like you don't have to take this route, and like what's the deal, blah blah blah. And Junpei at that point says like the heart isn't real, like there's no such thing as a heart, it's the soul, it's just like a flesh. He's like, no, it is. And he's like, no, but I can't admit the heart is real, because then that means, and I'm paraphrasing here, that like that these people who have real hearts have used it to hate me, you know what I mean, and like do all these things. And again, it really, for me, just really hit that much harder when he breaks down into tears, and when Itadori says, he finally realizes, you know, at that moment that he's like, oh, I have to stop kind of laying the ass whooping thing, because it's like not about it. And he goes, what happened? Like, talk to me. You know, that to me hit me really hard, and it made Junpei's death that much more sad, in my personal opinion, because obviously he's had it rough in all ways, shapes, and form. But like, Junpei is a very troubled character in the sense that it's not that he even says it in one of the earlier episodes. It's not that he would have a trigger to kill anyone he didn't like instantly. It would be the flip side, that anyone who doesn't like him. So it's really sad that this character, you know, is someone who seems to have been gifted in a lot of ways, in sorcery, in just, you know, ways of the world, you know, in intelligence rather, all that kind of thing. And it's sad that his life was like snuffed out at that moment, and, you know, for reasonings that he just couldn't even fully understand. Like, whenever there was a glimmer of hope at the light at the end of the tunnel, that like Itadori is like, there's finally someone that's going to be able to try and get to know me, understand me, all that kind of stuff, just for that to happen. So I thought that scene in particular where he breaks down and cries and then explains to Itadori everything that went down was really impactful for me personally. And then again, it just went, once he gets, right before he gets transformed, the real kick down below is that he's like, no, don't worry, Mahito's a good guy, you know, and this is someone else that he's like, maybe this is somebody else who understands me, but it was like a manipulative sense, right? And like that to me, is what really hit so hard with his death, was that it was like, you know, it's one thing to be one of those bullies that puts the cigarette out on his head, the teacher who doesn't do anything, whatever, makes it blatantly obvious, but like it's another type of evil from Mahito's part to totally be cognizant of what that is. And obviously he's an evil spirit, so we all know the choice he's going to make, but to opt to manipulate him even further and use that as a way to hurt him, you know what I mean, and use him that much more. I thought that scene was really impactful. And then the other one that I want to talk, you know, and if you guys have thoughts, but the other one I want to talk about was, or just that line, or one that really stuck for me, was the part where he's like, I'll kill you, but he has that moment of reflection where he's like, I meant that so much that I feel like every other thing that I've ever said in life up until this point was a lie. And like, for me, that hit, man, followed obviously by the incredible, you know, art that took place, but, and animation, like, wow. But that was like really, that really hit hard for me. That was like a little profound, you know what I mean? And it was like, it really put an emphasis on how serious this character is. And like I said before, something that I just love about this show is the fact that they blend this way of being able to like explain why someone says something or their motivations or reasonings in doing it without taking up like too much of the viewer's attention span, time, etc., and wrap it into this bow where it's like, I feel like I really can understand the resolve of some of these characters. I really understand their motivations, their drive, and what they do and why. And that was just something in that moment, again, that they've done well so many times, but in this moment that really just hit really hard with me. But I mean, I don't know. So we have the rest of the fight. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that sort of thing. I thought it was interesting that Sukuna basically told Mahito to kick rocks when he tried to touch him at the one point. You know what I mean? That was pretty crazy. Where he's like, "Whoa, bro," just because like we shared a beer together for or like we laughed for a minute. Yeah. That'll make us boys.
Not even. It was like the equivalent of like telling a joke and that nigga across the table laughs at it, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not like giving you. You want money now? No. We just chuckled at the same joke, nigga. That's not. We're not like boys. Yeah. I thought it was also cool because again, making parallel. One of the things I love about this show is how much it like goes to the door of the typical like route that the show could take, and then like diverts at the last second. And again, one of those things is the relationship between Sukuna and Itadori, right? This could be, you're very like, Sukuna is evil and twisted and, but like it'll take a heart of gold like Itadori to warm him up and maybe even befriend him. And it's like, no, that's not what this is about, bro. This man is evil. He's fucked up. He's maniacal. He's twisted. He's just killing people for sake because he can. And like, this isn't like Itadori and Sukuna against the world. It's like Itadori against Sukuna and the world. You know what I mean? So like every opportunity when he's in these moments where it's like, oh, Sukuna, help me out. It's like, nigga, we're not pals. Yeah. Like, we're not homies. Like, stop asking me for help. I'll come out there and eat your head off and everybody else's. And so it's cool seeing that while he has that response and relationship with Itadori, he's also just genuinely like not a friendly nigga, right? He's not like Mahito, who's another cursed spirit, is like, goes to transform and he's like, what the do you think you're doing? And it's like, let me make something straight. I'm not cool with this nigga, but I'm also not cool with you. Like, it's not. I'm really like a lone wolf kind of like I'm out here doing my own thing, and so it like. That again, because you brought up the point where in the fight it's like, perhaps Sukuna is like healing Itadori's wounds, and that's how he's able, because like he takes some pretty nasty hits in the fight that ensues, and that's how he's able to like sort of stay in the fight, and he's not like really wounded because most human beings get skewered, and they're kind of out. I guess it's got to be something like, because Itadori, I mean, we've athletic skills aside, the difference between like I can move faster than a person and like I can lose more blood than a human being and still be fine. But it is interesting to see that like now that Mahito can't sort of depend on like his one trick pony of like, let me just get close enough and zap you into whatever. He's gonna actually have to fight Itadori, and now like what happens later in the episode. Now that Itadori gets a little bit of backup, it's gonna be interesting to see how fair or how well off Mahito is able to handle himself, because I have a feeling that like while Itadori by himself wouldn't be able to defeat Mahito, he is the trump card that would give somebody like Kento, those two teaming up the advantage over someone like Mahito. So I don't know. We'll definitely. We'll see.
It's interesting because although Itadori, it's weird because Itadori has a direct, not counter, I want to say, but, this immunity, obviously, you're saying, to his ability. But ironically, I feel like Mahito is a direct counter in a way to not only Itadori but Kento. Their styles, they kind of suck against him because chop my limb off. I have like a billion of these people like chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? I can just pop one, I'm good, or whatever. Like I could just morph my body in any way, shape, and form. Like you're gonna have to do some like Gojo level, like you're now in the abyss. You know what I mean? Type things. Like sure, take any form you want. You're in blackness. Something like that. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And I thought that Sukuna's thing, you brought it up, where it's like I love the fact that it's not like some, I'm going to befriend you type thing where it's like, Sukuna, come out, although you want to see him cut loose, obviously, because we want to see what Sukuna's capable of. But, like, he's like, good one. You know what I mean? His little cheat thing starts and I felt bad at that moment because I started laughing, but the Junpei had just died. And he's like, I refuse. And so it's like, I shouldn't be laughing right now. Stop making me laugh. It was so messed up.
That scene was all kinds of fun.
But it was interesting, too, and to see that in Mahito's mind, it was cool because they were, they're obviously thinking of like, well, this because of this, and if I do this, blah, blah, blah. But it was cool because he's like, wait a minute. Sukuna just refused a contract with him because in that moment, Itadori says, I will do anything. I will give myself up if you heal him. And he said, no, right? And you think at that moment, you're like, okay, well, Sukuna, A, has established that he doesn't need Itadori. He can just wait it out. You know what I mean? And B, if he does want Itadori, the point was that he's like, I want full control. Like you already did it, right? But he's like, no. So that was interesting because Mahito puts it two and two together. He's like, whoa, that's weird. Why would he refuse that, right? Like he's this all powerful being. Either he can't heal that, which, you know, whatever, or there's like some ulterior motive at play. And that's what I'm very curious to see, what that ulterior motive is from Sukuna, like what his long game is here. And it makes it that much more interesting that Itadori has to fight this external front, but also this internal front, that they have these different motives, you know, like Mahito wants him to come out because of whatever, and Sukuna wants to chill for a little. And that's something that I'm very interested in getting all the groundwork for. And when that finally comes to the surface, like what the big end game was here for Sukuna in particular. But I don't know.
And I also wonder if, like, because now that Kento has been, by the end of the episode, he's brought into the mix. I feel a little sadistic, but I'm like, you gonna die too? Because like, and I'm not that kind of like. I personally think it says more when you can like accomplish the same feat of a character dying without killing them off. So I'm very like sparingly with death. Like I don't like just killing off characters for the sake of doing it, or even if there's another way around it. Like if you have to, you have to. But I do take exception with this show because I think this show, like it just works. Like the way that they string it in with the story here and like just thematically it works. And so again, now that Kento is in the mix, I'm like, well, now his life is in the bucket, so to speak.
Sure.
But I wonder if that's the thing of like, he would have to give his life in this fight with Itadori to get rid of Mahito, or maybe if Sukuna ends up coming out, now Kento's life is at risk by both sides because of Mahito and Sukuna. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if Sukuna ends up participating in this altercation at all. If he does, to what extent? You know, because like you said, we still don't really. I mean, like we know that Sukuna's kind of just a twisted, but like we still don't really know like what he wants, other than like obviously to get all his fingers and be revived. So yeah, I'm definitely curious.
Gavin, what do you think?
No, I guess it's weird because I feel like Itadori is almost lucky in the sense that Sukuna is the way he is, because I mean, realistically, what we've seen with the Cursed Spirits is that it looks like they almost all get together, you know, somewhat well, because we've seen from Volcano Head and his friends that they are friendly amongst each other. And it looks like it's almost like if you're a Cursed Spirit, you know, you're one of us, you know, like we're all together, we're all in this, like we're all one almost. And we haven't really seen Cursed Spirits have like negative connotations against each other. Usually they're with groups, and you never see them like killing each other or wanting to hurt or like bad talking each other, you know, unless it's in Sukuna's case where it's very condescending, where it's like, you're beneath me, you're below me. And that works for Itadori in this sense, because we know how strong that Mahito, I almost called him Moji. We know how strong Mahito is in the sense that his companions around him are super fucking strong. I.e., when Gojo fought Volcano Head, and at the end of that scene, they had that flower guy, that flower curse spirit, come back, pick up his head, and leave, and Gojo was like, oh, I didn't even detect him. Like, crap, you better be stronger than me, Itadori, like, if you want to fight these people. So we know that around Mohito, he has other cursed spirits who are very strong. And if Sukuna did, you know, step down to their level in a sense and have a pact with them, that could be brutal for all the sorcerers, because that you could literally build a formidable team. But since Sukuna is is a stubborn piece of crap, he's like, no, you're beneath me. I'm a really just crush all of you. That actually is a silver lining for Itadori and his team, and I think that's really cool how it's implemented. That not all cursed spirits like kick it together. They actually can be salty toward one another. And yeah, I thought like that dynamic is just really cool, and I can't wait to see what happens when Sukuna maybe sees through Itadori's physical features other cursed spirits that are high level that might rival Sukuna, and if that will cause him to want to come out and fight. Because I feel like a big portion of it is, in a way, Sukuna just doesn't need to transform. Like, it's almost like, why do I need to if you're beneath me, in a sense, where it's like, Itadori, just take care of him. Or I feel like it's almost like a Kurama case in Naruto, where it's like he doesn't want to be there, but he's just sitting back and watching, and he's just kind of soaking it in. And he's like, I don't like, unless it's a deal that's like I'm needed to come in and attack, why do I even bother? Like, you can die. Everything's irrelevant to him until something catches his interest, and when that interest is catched, that's when he wants to come out and, you know, wants to see and have control over Itadori's body. So I feel like for now, either way, he has to play the long game. He can't just jump out of his body. So I feel like his mindset is more in, I'm going to chill and I'm just going to see what happens. And when something interests me, that's when I'm going to make my move. I mean, we've kind of seen it with Fuji a little bit in that he's like, oh, I want to see what this kid's like can do in the future because I sense some latent power in him. So it's again interesting, and I wonder when we start fighting these like high level people if that's when Sukuna's like, yo, like tag me in, coach, like let me go in and fight, and what Itadori will say in response to that, like, okay, you know, I'm more like frivolous and I'm going to allow you to take over my body. Or if the stronger that Itadori gets, correspondingly, he's like, no, I want nothing to do with you. You sit back. And it becomes this weird, like, almost like cucks Sukuna in his body where he's like, you know, he's getting stronger. Like, I want to escape. And it becomes almost like a time crunch where he's just trying to get full control over him. I don't know. It's interesting. But now I feel like Sukuna's just chilling on his little throne and he's just relaxed and watching to see how the pieces fall. But I'm curious when we actually fight higher level spirits. I forgot, what are they called again?
Curses?
Yeah, but like the levels.
Oh, special grade?
Special grade, yeah. I wonder when we get like those high, because we've seen regular special grades and Sukuna like literally coming out and it's like, you're a joke. Like you call yourself a special grade. That was that weird one from a couple episodes back. But I'm talking like Sukuna level where even he probably will know them, I'm assuming, if they're that powerful. And again, I also wonder what happens when Itadori runs into people who might have been friends with Sukuna at some period and kills them or comes close to it. If that will, what would happen in that scenario? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, and I feel like this is hard. We're going in a little half-cocked because we don't have all the information here. We're not manga readers. So it is interesting, though, because right now we have the choice with Itadori where it's like, okay, do I want to switch willingly, right? And he does it at first, and then Sukuna says, nah. And then later, you know, that's the whole point. Mahito's trying to make him switch, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do this on my own power. But I do find it interesting because, you know, via their contract in a couple episodes ago when Itadori dies, basically, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if I'm not mistaken, Sukuna basically says, okay, here's the deal. When I say that I want to come out, I can come out for like X amount of time. But like the deal is like, okay, I won't hurt your friends. You know, I promise I'm not going to hurt your friends. I'll come out. So that is interesting, and I don't know if there's a fight to be had between like Itadori internally and him because that contract was already made and sealed. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, I am curious to see like later on if there are any. I don't know. I'm curious to see what cursed spirits, if any, do rival Sukuna. If they do, I feel like again we're only 12 episodes deep, so depending on how long this manga is, I'm assuming there's going to be some cursed spirit up there that really is powerful. Mahito seems pretty damn strong right now, I will say. So I mean, there's that. But yeah, I am curious to see like if that happens and if it can happen, like if he's just that much. Because another thing too is like, with the hostility thing, a lot of the cursed spirits don't even have the ability to think straight. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them are just like mindless animals. It's only like the upper levels of them that even some of the special grades, right? They couldn't even form sentences, right? It's very rare that you even get some of the, they have to be at least special grade, and even so to formulate speech is like kind of a big deal. They even make things about it, like when the sorcerers go and they're like, oh, that one could talk. That's interesting. So like, there's that, like how many are even capable of speech to then form said team and like form this unit. So this is definitely something interesting in the terms of Mojito and gang. And if Sukuna doesn't want to join them, like, there'd have to be some powerful ones. They also in one of the first episodes, Sukuna mocks Gojo for saying that, why aren't you in charge? You're the most powerful one here. And Gojo's like, whatever excuse, there's a principle. And he's like, that's ridiculous. You guys don't have like a strongest as the leader, like, or whatever, he's like, that's the stupidest I've ever heard. So like, that'll be interesting too. Like there would have to be a really powerful cursed spirit. And then at that point though, like, I don't know if there is, you know what I'm saying? Because if Sukuna's rival to be said to be the strongest, like that, I don't know. I just I don't think he's the friendly type.
But it's weird because even with that thought, like you'd assume that if Sukuna is, say, the strongest, he has people below him, or at least like a trusted few people or cursed spirits that he can like bounce back to. And that's what I'm curious. Like if Itadori runs into them and is like about to fight them, is Sukuna going to pull like the get out of jail free card and take over his body and be like, yo, run, like you're my homie? Or is it going to be like, oh, if you can't handle Itadori, then you're not worth my time?
I think it's like,
that. And I do too. I'm just curious on what's going to happen. Or if maybe Sukuna just doesn't care, and until someone piques his interest, that's when he's like, all right, let me out. Like, I don't know. It's just weird, but I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think as somebody who's touted as the strongest of the cursed spirits, Like he's really on like some King of the Hill type, and like it's, you know what I mean. Like I'm up here because I'm better than everybody. There is nobody that sits next to me. Everybody sits below me, or they're dead. In which case they're also below me. So like I don't think he's really like. Let's put it this way. I don't think he has allies, because I think anybody that is not his enemy is a potential future enemy, right? Like I don't even think he trusts other cursed spirits, because I think somebody with that mentality of like survival of the fittest probably is not prone to just having people that are even in the realm of his strength just like hanging out and lying around, because you know, strength is one thing, but like there are multiple ways to kill something. So like I think in his mind it's like, no, I'm the strongest because I killed you. Like that's why I got here. I'm sitting on top of dead bodies, not like subservient bodies. That's
I think there could be like zealots, like people out there that like
sure, there could
him,
be people like
but
one
he
way
might not even know
where
about.
It's like they're like, yeah, we love Sukuna, and he's like, you know, that could be a thing where there's cursed spirits that are like, yeah, like all hail Sukuna, he's the best, and Sukuna's like, not these niggas again. You know, but yeah,
interesting stuff. Anyway, we didn't miss anything, right? Kento comes in, says, you know, what's the deal? We're going to use that against him, that he can't manipulate your
and
soul.
He breaks down the strategy.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
I think that was it. Yeah, let us know if we missed anything. I think we basically covered all the major plot points though.
Oh wait, no, that ninja scroll at the end. What? All right, is there like a rhyme or reason? Because that one I've got to say,
there was just nothing. I don't even understand what that was. Like, why was that in the episode?
That's what I'm getting at, because I know we had one person comment that's like, "Yo, somebody actually like reacts to it and like looks at it." I'm wondering like if that actually has a relevancy to the story, because like we've gotten back, like we know that it doesn't, but like. I'm just curious, because that one seemed like way out of left field, where there has to be like someone thought of this. Someone sat down in the drawing room and was like, let's put this together. There has to be a reason why it was put in the end in some way, shape, or form. Even if it has no relevancy to the show, it has to do with like a producer's personal life or something. I don't know what that had to do with like Cursed Spirits playing with that toy specifically, but I'm just curious if that's like almost like a weird like stretch of a foreshadowing or what. But I feel like there has to be some sort of relevancy with it.
I feel like you're reading too far into it personally.
I probably am, but why put that in the show?
No, I think my prediction is something where it's like little side gig things, right? You know how like we've been reading the blog posts and like sometimes we'll do like the sketches of like a half-ass sketch of like someone at school, or like request this, or like little like blurb things. That's my personal opinion. I think it's just like little joke things that they do that correlate. Like like if they have them, you know, that coincide with the manga when it comes out, and like here's a little goof sketch I did, you know, to do, because I think it definitely makes a more lighthearted scenario out of a show that for all intents and purposes is incredibly dark. So that's my prediction. You know,
we've had other scenes where like, you know, it's like, wears Nobura's skirt and her jacket, right? And like Gojo ends up coming out wearing them, and it's like they're not supposed. It's like a Demon Slayer. You know, every episode would end and like characters would come out of the panel and like do a little bantery thing. It's like it's not supposed to be connected in any way, because how
this one was definitely the most interesting, and I think what made it very interesting is that there's no dialogue, because we only hear there's weird voices and they look like pseudo children, and then like that was like the most suspenseful comic ever, because you're like, is it gonna blow up? You know what I mean? They're doing the knives, and then all of a sudden
it just felt like where the Gojo one again, for example, because it's the only one that I can think of. Like, you know, it was funny, but it was like very quick and fluid, and like things were happening, people were talking, and like it concerned all the characters that we know. Where this one, it's like, all right, 3 random cursed spirits that like we're probably never going to see again, and it just felt like there was an awful lot of time committed to this amount of show that really has absolutely nothing to do with
that's what I'm getting at. Like, because like you guys said before, you know, they're funny and lighthearted, but usually they have a character from the show in it that's being highlighted and shows into their personality, even if it's exaggerated. This had none of that. Like, literally, it was just these random things playing a random game, and so much time. And that's what I mean, where it's like someone drew this and put the time into it. Like, there had to be some sort of reason. Like, even with the Gojo one, like it played to his personality. You're like, I can see Gojo doing that, and it's hilarious. But this one, I'm like, I don't picture 3 cursed things playing a weird game that's gonna blow up. And like that's the thing. Like, what's the whole purpose? Oh, just random suspense with like some like that. That's the question. Is does anybody
They
know
nailed
or
it.
have any rival? If it was just for random BS,
I think
they nailed it.
I think we're just mad that somebody committed that much time making that, and we're like, why
Literally.
was that there? The like,
For real, dude. That could have been 2 more minutes of that fight. No, man. I don't know. That was like I said though, that was a fire episode. That was really good.
It was.
Listen, folks, if you liked our discussion today, make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos or live streams. We post every single day. So you definitely don't want to miss it, and any more future Jujutsu Kaisen coverage, as well as the other amazing shows that we have lined up for us. You know we'll be covering them. So for sure, do all that stuff. Share with your friends. The more the merrier. Comment your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion today? Is there anything that we may have missed or glossed over that you found to be very profound and interesting within the confines of this episode? What are your predictions for the future? And don't spoil anything. That's only if you've not read the manga as well. We want to hear all those thoughts. Be a part of the conversation. It's not just us here at the table. It's you guys at home as well. Everyone watching, everyone who enjoys this. We want to enjoy it with you and have these, these discussions and, have some fun about it. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. But until next time, we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.